The stars had never looked so cold. Nathan stood at the panoramic viewport of the USCS Resolute, watching the slow rotation of Kale's flagship, the Velthora Prime, as it drifted 3 kilometers off their port bow. 3 kilometers. In the void of space, that was nothing. A handshake distance, some called it. The distance at which civilizations chose whether to embrace or destroy one another. Nathan had been choosing for 22 years. He had commanded fleets through the Kepler Corridor War, survived the silence of Proxima, that terrible 6-month blackout where they'd lost contact with 40,000 colonists, and negotiated the Trident Accords that had kept 4 species from annihilating each other over a dying red dwarf. He had gray at his temples and old shrapnel scars along his left forearm that ached in the cold of deep space. He was not a man easily impressed. He was not a man easily deceived. But he had been. Commander. Lieutenant Yara's voice came crisp through his earpiece. The Velthora delegation is assembled in Bay 7. Kale is asking if you're ready. Nathan turned from the viewport. Tell him I'm on my way. He had first met Kale 8 months ago, on the neutral station orbiting HD 40307. The Velthora were a tall species, bipedal, silver-skinned, with elongated skulls and eyes the color of deep ocean. They moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost choreographed, and they spoke standard with such precision it made human diplomats feel clumsy by comparison. Kale had been different from the others. Where his advisors spoke in careful, measured phrases that revealed nothing, Kale had laughed at Nathan's dry jokes. Had asked genuine questions about Earth, about rain, about coffee, about the strange human habit of keeping animals as companions. He had seemed, in every observable way, like a being that genuinely wanted peace. Nathan had trusted him. That was the mistake. Not because trust was foolish. Nathan believed, still believed, that the capacity to trust was one of humanity's greatest tactical assets. Other species had weapons with longer range, faster ships, biology that didn't require sleep or food or the constant maintenance of fragile human bodies. But humans trusted. They formed bonds across impossible distances, across species lines, across centuries of war. They trusted, and when that trust was honored, they built things that lasted. When it was betrayed, however, they remembered. Bay 7 smelled of recycled air and the faint metallic tang that clung to every warship Nathan had ever served on. The Velthora delegation stood in a semicircle, 12 of them, silver robes, hands folded in the gesture that meant openness in their culture. Kale stood at the center. He looked exactly as Nathan remembered. Calm. Dignified. Those deep ocean eyes carrying what appeared to be genuine warmth. Commander Nathan. Kale inclined his head. We are honored. Kale. Nathan returned the nod. He did not smile. Something shifted, fractionally, in Kale's expression. A question forming behind his eyes. Nathan gave him no time to ask it. Before we begin, Nathan said, his voice level and carrying, I'd like to play something for your delegation. He nodded to Yara, who stood by the wall panel. The lights dimmed. The holoprojector at the center of the bay hummed to life. What appeared was not a diplomatic presentation. It was a recording, salvaged from the wreckage of the HSV Meridian, a human survey vessel that had gone dark 6 weeks ago near the Velthora outer colonies. The footage was damaged, strobing, partially corrupted. But what remained was clear enough. Velthora military vessels. Not patrol craft, warships, capital class, bearing the sigil of Kale's own house. And the Meridian, burning. Crew pods ejected, broadcasting distress signals on every frequency. And the warships, watching, doing nothing, then firing a second time as the pods tried to scatter. 31 people. The youngest had been 19 years old. Her name had been Sarah. She had been on her first deep space posting, studying exoplanetary geology, and she had died calling for help that the Velthora had ensured would never come. The recording ended. The lights came back up. The Velthora delegation had not moved. Their folded hands gesture of openness remained frozen in place, as though they had simply paused mid-performance and forgotten to continue. Kale's eyes had changed. The ocean warmth was gone. What remained was colder, deeper, calculating. That footage, he began carefully, could be fabricated. It could be, Nathan agreed. So could the whole fragments we recovered bearing Velthora military registration codes. So could the testimony of the one survivor. Your weapons malfunctioned on Pod 4, Kale. She survived 4 hours in a damaged escape pod before we retrieved her. He paused. She told us everything. Silence. We came here in good faith, Kale said finally. His voice had shifted, the warmth stripped away entirely now, replaced by something that might have been contempt. Your species is fractured. Politically unstable. We studied you for decades before this. You cannot sustain a prolonged engagement across multiple star systems. You lack the biological endurance. The population base. Your colonies are stretched too thin and your supply lines are fragile. He tilted his head. We calculated that a decisive strike on your core systems, while your leadership was occupied with diplomatic theater, would end the human expansion within 14 months. One of his advisors made a sharp gesture, silence, but Kale waved it off. It doesn't matter now, he said. You wouldn't have discovered the full scope of the operation until it was too late. The fact that you're here, having this conversation, means our timeline has been disrupted. But not destroyed. His eyes moved across Nathan's face, calculating. What do you want, Commander? A new arrangement? We can offer. Nothing, Nathan said. Kale stopped. You misunderstand the reason I'm here, Nathan continued. He clasped his hands behind his back, a habit from 30 years of standing on bridges and in war rooms and in the long quiet spaces between crisis and consequence. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm not here to threaten. I came, personally, because I wanted to look you in the eye when I told you what we've already done. He let that land. Done, Kale repeated. 3 hours ago, a coordinated strike force, 17 human vessels operating under total calm silence for the past 6 weeks, no transponders, no active sensors, moved into position around your 7 primary shipyard systems. They've been in position for 11 minutes. Nathan checked his wrist. Make that 12. The temperature in Bay 7 seemed to drop 10 degrees. The Velthora Prime is currently being painted by 4 targeting systems from vessels you haven't detected, Nathan said. Not because we intend to fire. We don't. We're not at war with the Velthora people. We are, however, done being patient with their leadership. He looked at Kale directly, the way he'd looked at burning ships and dying friends and all the long, awful arithmetic of command. You studied us for decades. You identified our weaknesses, biological endurance, supply lines, population base. You're not wrong about any of it. On paper, we're the underdog in every conflict category. Nathan took one step closer. What your models didn't account for, he said quietly, is that humans don't fight the war on paper. We fight the war in front of us. We adapt. We work with less. We push past the point where your models say we should have stopped, because stopping isn't something we know how to do when the alternative is losing someone we care about. His jaw tightened. 31 people. One 19-year-old who just wanted to look at rocks on other planets. Kale said nothing. For the first time since Nathan had known him, he appeared to have nothing to say. You're going to stand your warships down, Nathan said. All of them. Across every system where you've been repositioning assets for the last 4 months, yes, we know about those too. You're going to open your shipyard records to independent inspection. And you're going to answer for what happened to the Meridian in front of the Galactic Tribunal, on record, in your own words. And if we refuse? Kale asked. His voice was very quiet now. Nathan held his gaze for a long moment. Then you'll have confirmed to every watching species in this galaxy that the Velthera cannot be trusted. And you'll have confirmed to us that diplomacy has run its course. He stepped back. We gave you a chance at peace. You used it to plan our destruction. That's a choice you made, and there are consequences for choices. That's not a threat, Kale. That's just physics. He turned to Yara. Record their response. Then he walked back toward the viewport and the cold stars beyond it, and he waited. Behind him, after a very long silence, he heard Kale begin to speak, quietly, to his advisors, in Velthera, and the translation in Nathan's earpiece rendered it, word by word, into something that sounded very much like surrender. Nathan did not smile. He thought of Sarah, 19 years old, looking at rocks on other planets. He thought, we remember. And he waited for the galaxy to understand what that meant.